All right, we're recording. All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Event Icons. I'm Laura Lopez, the Senior Community Manager over at SocialTables, and I'm joined with Sean Holladay. What's up, Sean?
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm excited for this show. It's different. It's a little different today, but I'm excited.
It is indeed a little bit different today. So this is actually going to be AMA style with yours truly and Sean. So this is going to be an interesting one because we're going to rip a couple of headlines that have been making waves in the events and meetings world. So we're going to go through a couple of those, but like every event icons, we want to hear from you. So be sure to use the questions box for any questions, comments, anything that you want to add to the conversation. And we'll throw them into the conversation as we go along. And really, we can't make the show fun and exciting without that engagement. So please send us any ideas, thoughts that you have along in the questions box off to the side. And so in case you're wondering about the future episodes of Event Icons, we will be joining our regularly scheduled broadcast same time every week, 4:30 for the pre-show, shows at 5. So please join us there for some really awesome chats with Event Icons. So be sure to join us next week for that. And if you haven't signed up, be sure to sign up for every broadcast, and you'll get a notification of when we're going to go live, and just a quick little reminder, and you can add it to your calendar as well. So cool. So let's see. First headline here. Here's one that's interesting. So you might notice that our best friend, Will Kern, is actually not on the video broadcast. He is here. He's logged on. And where is he going? Well, he's on his way to the San Diego Comic-Con, all famous. And Sean, are you a comic book nerd? Would you identify with that?
I'm a little bit. I'm a little bit. Yeah. Pokemon,
okay.
Comic-Con, Pokemon, you know what I mean? It's like...
And we're going to talk Pokemon in a second. But okay, so well, who's your favorite comic book character?
I just go classic Spider-Man. I mean, you can't get away from just a good old classic. What about you?
I was gonna say I'm more of a Batman person.
Okay.
Yeah, so a little bit of Batman, but so it's a huge, epic, iconic event that happens every year. So Will and his team are going out there to help, put on that show, provide some AV there. So I came across a really interesting article, and what came out of it was that DC Comics just released a new policy around wristbands at signings at events. So it's really going to take away, people having to get there, be the first one in line, and I believe it's all RFID. So basically, there's new technology that surprisingly there wasn't really technology around, your place in line when it comes to comic book signings. So and meeting famous people. So what do you think that's going to do for event security, the organization of an event? How will it help planners be more prepared? What do you think?
I think it's just efficient. Like, I want to hear from the audience, I want to hear from people saying stuff, but I think it just comes back down to efficiencies, right? A technology a lot of times equals efficiencies, right? I remember when I was a little kid, as long ago as this was, that my mom had a pager, right? And so she'd like get a message from one of us, like, hey, put it with our phone number, and she'd go to a phone, call us, like, what do you need? What's for dinner, Mom? Right? And it's like, what are you? And then text messaging came out, and we're like, Mom, what's for dinner? And she'd just be like, nothing, don't worry about it, right? And it was so much more efficient for her because she didn't know if it was, the house is on fire or we're hungry boys. And so I think this will really help. Have you been to a big, like, not a Comic-Con maybe, but have you ever been to a big event where somebody, like, I went to Gary V's, a keynote with Gary Vaynerchuk, and I mean, just everybody wanted to get this book signed, and it became this huge problem. It was cutting into the lines of, food and getting through the expo hall. I think this is really just going to help. I think there's some cool analytics and data and tracking, but I think just efficiencies of people and places is going to be huge.
I think it's going to make for a much better attendee experience, if nothing else. So traditionally, most people, it would have to be first come, first served. And then, whenever whenever you get there, and usually it's an ungodly hour. It's like you got to get there by like 6 a.m. for a noon signing or something like that. And then on top of that, there's one that happens in DC. It's called AwesomeCon, so it's sort of like Comic-Con light, but still really, really big names. And for a lot of those signings, it's in addition to your ticket to the entire conference, you have to buy one specially for the signing. So they had the original Batman there, and it was pretty expensive. So I mean, if anything else, it's it's going to improve the attendee experience, I think, and make it a lot more organized and kind of like what you mentioned, efficiencies. People won't have to waste their time, waiting in line. They can enjoy the other parts of the conference. Maybe they can meet somebody else while they're waiting in line or like digitally waiting in line. So I think it'll improve the attendee experience if nothing else. So I think that'll be good for folks there. And Will, when you're there, if you see anybody who has one of those special wristbands, if you could do us a favor, ask them how it's going. That would be good because they got some really big names this year. There's demos for VR, so they're doing a Batman Arkham VR demo. There's a line for that. Lots of big names who are going to be there from DC Comics, so pretty cool. So that was the big headline that I found today.
I think there's some cool RFID wristband stuff with Disney, right? I don't know the specifics around it, but they do some cool color change. I know Coldplay does some really cool color changing at their stuff, and that's not necessarily tracking, but it's the mindset of moving to wearable kind of cool stuff. I think the next topic I want to just kind of stir around is VR in events, right? I don't know that I have this headline, really cool article or anything, but let's kind of just talk about, I did see at Infocom, they had a VR booth that was, was it Infocom or what was the other show? Let me think about it for a second. Infocom, I'm pretty sure. They had a VR booth that was actually about entertainment or pleasure, whatever you call it, that kind of stuff. But point being is that they were taking this, it was the most popular booth there, right? Because it's taking something that normally you have to physically be there and making it reality. What do you think, Laura, as far as how this is going to fit into the events for the next, in the next 5 years?
I mean, I would say that when it comes to VR, it's definitely going to help as event budgets tighten. I think that, and this has been another hot topic which we can talk about, but some people look at events as cost centers where it's just people spending money. We don't know why we're hosting an event, what's the ROI, how's that going to help our business, which, by the way, is going to be a future topic of Event Icon, so please stay tuned for that. But, as event industry professionals, we know that, no, events are not cost centers. They have true ROI, and they do have a place when it comes to building revenue. So I think that it's going to, so back to the original point, I think that when it comes to VR and, travel budgets, not every, I know that there's a ton of really big shows that are international. One that I can name, for example, is the Future of Events, which I think Will is attending. Are you attending? Are you going to be there?
Not. Will, no? I know Will's there. He's my proxy.
Okay. I'm going to be there. So, nice. It's in Amsterdam. It's in Europe. Not everybody has the time or even the money, the budget to go to Europe, but it's going to be a great event. So I think when it comes to virtual reality, it's going to allow attendees the ability to be places where they can't necessarily be. So I think it's a good follow-up to kind of like virtual attendance as it relates to live streaming. So it's going to be another one of those options. So opening up options for attendees, kind of like what I mentioned with the Comic-Con article. It's going to definitely ease, the experience for attendees. You're not going to have to go to the airport, pack a bag, be away from the office all that time. Really you can, and especially if this is in a totally different time zone, you can do both your job and attend the event. You don't have to choose one or the other. So I think it's going to be huge. However, 5 years, I don't know if that's, if a lot of people are going to be adopting VR technology that quickly.
Yeah.
So I think it's one of those situations. I mean, I think it's going to be a situation like probably a couple of years back when nobody had an iPhone and everybody's like talking about iPhones, but yet nobody else has it. So it's one of those situations where I think it's going to be good once everybody has VR technology, and they're actually launching at events. Yeah. What do you think?
I think the same. I think the same thing. And kind of on that topic, I know this one's really going to kind of get you excited and poke your interest. But if we look at kind of VR in a very non-hardware, actual submerged experience, Pokemon Go, right? This huge craze that's everywhere, is close to this very, animation Pokemon world that's being brought into our world. Right, when you go to catch the Pokemon, it's in our world. It's whatever building or where location you're at. I'm kind of doing this almost as a joke. My wife makes fun of me, like, and most people won't believe me. I literally don't have Pokemon Go. I want to be the guy that's like, you don't have Pokemon, I'm gonna punch you in your face, and I'm like, no, that's me. I don't have it. And so I want to pick your brain. How do you see Pokemon Go and events kind of transitioning? It's kind of the closest to VR we have right now. Kind of in events and just in general, how it's just this craze. I know you're like a level, what, 8 or 9 trainer?
I'm a level 8. I'm a level 8. I'm very proud to say that. I have never once stepped foot in a Pokemon gym, so that's basically just all of my, evolving all of my Pokemon. I can't believe I'm talking about this right now. But
you're
yeah,
you're not a fighter. You're a farmer, and I love it.
Yeah, I just want to catch them all. But yeah, so SocialTables, actually, my good buddy on the team, David Budimir, he put out an awesome article about Pokemon Go, and it was about the future of attendee engagement. And the first point that he makes about Pokemon Go is that it's actually a meetings app. You've seen, I don't know if you've seen this meme with all of the flamingos, and it says, people playing Pokemon Go or looking for Pokemon, and it's all these little flamingos, and they're moving together in like little tiny groups.
I've seen it.
Yeah. In like different, yeah. So, but really, it's a way for people to meet each other IRL. And I was watching this video. This was actually pretty funny, and this one gal makes the comment that Michelle Obama was trying for 8 years to get people to be active through her one campaign, and all it took was a Pokemon Go app to get people like up and walking around, and that's all it took to get people kind of like meeting. And I watched another video. It was about Pokemon hacks, and there was a guy, and he was trying to kind of like show different aspects of the app, and they actually showed him meeting other people who were at that stop. So, first and foremost, I think I completely agree with the fact that Pokemon is actually a meeting app. And so there's ways that you can apply what Pokemon Go, is sort of setting out to do and bring that into the meetings world. So, augmented reality and bringing that into,
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see some of these bigger event app companies start to put, lures and gyms in their own wording, in their own way. But if you think about it, it's a huge scavenger hunt. Why wouldn't you have this at an event? Go to this area, right? It's a networking way to get other people, and you do whatever. But I guess the whole point is that it's just this augmented way to connect people that are they're going to be right here, right? They're going to be on their phones. Let's take them there to a place where then they kind of have to look around and be like, oh, I'm actually a real human, and I want to interact. I think it's game over for advertising and marketing, right? And event specific,
Yes.
right? Comic-Con should have some crazy, right, Pokemon in their area when that's available to purchase, right? Sponsor. That only makes sense. And a lot of time, I think we think of events in our own world of events we put on, which are corporate events, social table type events, right? Well, I mean, any of these, like the Republican Party event, that is an event. There's a planner behind that doing all the logistics of AV and everything. The Comic-Cons of the world, the Salesforce, Dreamforce, huge stuff. And those are really good opportunities to get hundreds of thousands of people to kind of come together and check things out. So you're the Pokemon Go master. You're the level 8 trainer. Any other insights or feedback for the world, for the events world, the event icons listening?
Yeah, I would say, people are probably just going to try and take the gamification aspect of Pokemon Go and just applying it to events. I know I attended Cater Source a year or two ago, And they have this every year, and it's just a social media wall, and it's just whoever tweets the most. And I think it's been the same lady who's won 2 years in a row. Not that that's bad. I mean, she's just a very prolific tweeter.
I love it.
But I mean, I think it's going to add a little bit more value because you're going to have to actually prove that you got there. Like if you are, you know,
Exactly
with
right.
Pokemon, it's like I am a level 25 trainer, and this is like, you know, you have something to actually show for. Whereas, you know, sometimes with the tweets, it's just kind of like it's just kind of lost
So,
in the ether, and it's
yeah.
very one-way communication. Whereas, you know, augmented reality, Pokemon Go, you can actually see, you know, you can actually meet people there. Maybe make business
Extremely
connection.
interactive. Yeah,
Yeah,
extremely
yeah.
interactive. So
And
we have somebody on that's a level 21.
oh, level 21.
Oh, mama, they got a question for
Here
you
we go.
too.
Team Mystic. It's Alex Plaxon. Yes. Can we catch some Pokemon in Amsterdam next month? Absolutely. We can do that. Team Mystic. No, I am actually Team Valor. Um, sorry to say. It was like game time decision. I didn't even really know what I was signing up for. I didn't know that I had to pick a team. So I'm Team Valor. I think that's the red team. Wow, level 21. Alex Plaxon, what is your secret? We need to know how
Yeah,
you got
fill us
that like,
in.
amazing at Pokemon Go.
I think something else, yeah, that I want to kind of bring up just on disruptive technology. So CrowdMics, so I'm the co-founder of CrowdMics. If you didn't know on the show, right? We get a lot of pushback. We have to do a lot of educating on turning your phone into a microphone. We're the first right now and only still that turns your phone into a mic. So we get a lot of, well, it's not going to work in here. People don't have phones. Is this, that, right? A lot of education, and we find a lot of people, a lot of pushback. Yeah, it's funny how Tesla has turned on how many automated cars, one crash, right? One car crash of these tons of cars, and that's just the biggest problem and the biggest news, and we should stop automated car. And it's like, that was one of so many. And so I know that Pokemon gets a lot of flack for finding dead bodies and people falling off cliffs, and it's like, look at the numbers. There's like 30 million active players, and 4 or 5 people out of and we don't know their environment or situation. They might have a problem with visual impairment, and they're so like, we don't know. And so it's really hard to, we got to look past those 2 or 3 articles, and that's and I'm not looking past anybody's fate and them having passed away, but we can't just dwell and like live on these small use cases. I will own a Tesla and drive it in automated, automation, because that one incident is just, it was a freak weird thing with a semi truck that was too hot. You know what I mean? Like, we just got to look at the bigger picture and realize that that's not everything. That's just a tiny portion of what it is.
Right.
So
and I think that,
that's my rant on technology, adopting technology.
I mean, I think that also you have to be safe, and there is that warning that's built into the app that says, be sure to be aware of your surroundings. Like, I would never be walking around in a dangerous area, Pokemon going while I'm walking around. Like, that just wouldn't be smart. And people should not be doing Pokemon Go while they're in their car. I know the temptation is there to collect Pokeballs wherever you're driving, but that's probably just not the best use of the technology. So
I think.
we have a question in. How can event organizers use Pokemon Go to improve their events? Sean, what are your thoughts?
How can they use Pokemon Go to improve their events? I think having like a kind of a scoreboard, like you would say that even if Alex started at 21, you started at 8, but by the end of the event you're at 10 and he's at 22, like you leveled up twice. Or I think some way to kind of, it's almost like old school like trading cards, like, hey, this is what I got, this is what you got. And I think a way to get people to realize that they're doing the same thing. I mean, that's like the 101 of collaboration, I guess, of what am I thinking of? Networking, right? It's just finding, some mutual thing. Hey, what do you do? Yeah, whatever. Me and Laura both work at event-based companies. Cool, and then we just hit it off, right? Same thing. It's like, oh, whatever. If we can find and collect people, that's why it's so big. Is you're collecting people that believe and like the same thing. So you're sitting in a park and you see somebody else go like this, You're like, hey, what did you just catch? And it's like all of a sudden you do that. So I think sparking that in the event world, because so many times you go to these events and there's hundreds. I mean, we went to Dreamforce, hundreds of thousands of people, just crickets, just cruising around doing their thing with a mustache.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, just I think this is going to help, and I don't know how you do it specifically for an event. I love the question, but I think just that commonality, that little tiny piece that we both know what a Pikachu is, and you know what I mean? I think that's just enough to get people across the edge and be able to kind of chat with each other.
Yeah. Can I chime in there for a second?
Oh, yes. Is this Alex?
No, this is actually Stefan, also from CrowdMix. I'm listening in. And
oh, hi.
I also play PokemonGo, so I'm like level 15, 14. I just had an idea.
What level are you?
I'm like 13, 14, 15, somewhere there.
Okay, that's awesome. All right.
So I'm just thinking something you could do with a game like this where people are different levels. I think Alex 21, me 13. If we had some place where we could register our initial levels and then go out and play with everybody network there, and then at the end of the event go and tell them, hey, this is the progress I made. I'm now level 16. Make a game out of it, see who can progress the most, who can catch the most Pokemon. You can make so many different games out of a networking game like this. It's very simple and easy, and it's all about interaction. So I think it's awesome and a great tool to use.
All right, that's awesome.
I love the voice comment. If people want to talk, like,
everybody
let us know. Yeah, we can turn their mics on. So if you got a question you want to ask and you're not afraid to jump on, let's.
We have Joan and Joella on also. We're gonna go ahead and unmute you too.
Yeah, we'll turn you on. If you want to chat, feel free to chat.
Yeah.
So I think kind of on that last topic of, and Stefan, that's awesome insight, is that some way, and I think that's an easy kind of API with these event, knowing event apps from where we're at, that you could totally have it where they register in and say, oh, and it checks in and says, you're on level 21, cool. And then it gauges from where you were up and let that kind of be a part of the gamification. I think that'd be super cool. I think another thing that kind of want to touch on, which is another kind of headline topic, talking about, that people dwell on this, little tiny piece of problem. Tesla's one car crash of automated cars, and the other 50,000 that are doing it daily, don't come into account. It's just that one little tiny one. Same with, this girl finds a dead body. Like, she would have found it anyways if she was going down to like catch crawdads, but she happened to be playing PokemonGo, and so it relates PokemonGo to this, incident. Another one that came across our radar this week was Double Dutch. So they have had to let go of some of their staff to kind of hone in and focus on what's, their core product, their core values, and in the press release they talk about how hard it is, and I've done it as a founder. It is extremely hard to let go of people and not let go of them because of like, hey Laura, you're not performing. Like, sorry, it's like you're doing exactly what we wanted. We just have to kind of lean up and focus on things. And so I think as people see that news, they need to be very conscious that this does not mean Double Dutch is having problems, and that Double Dutch is, how many times has Intel and Apple and Google and Microsoft and all these big guys had these staff, changes, because it's a matter of going back to what's focus, what matters most, what do we need to be dialed in on. And so I just, as a founder and being in that position, wanted to make sure it's clear that it's not one of these raise a flag, something's going on. It's more of a focus thing. And we're fans of Double Dutch. We've had them on the show. You can go check out the episode.
Yes.
They're jamming. They're crushing it. They've raised a ton of money. I think it's just a matter of refocus.
Yeah, and I mean, we at SocialTables, we're also in technology, and I mean, just technology in general, kind of like how you mentioned, these really big companies, I mean, it's never easy when they have to go through those, reductions in force. Actually, I don't know if you all have heard of this company, but they're called Buffer. It's a social media scheduling app. We use it here at SocialTables, and a lot of people use it just personally. And they very recently, I want to say about maybe within the last month or two ago, went through pretty much the same exact thing where they had to, unfortunately, let go of a big chunk of their workforce for pretty much the same reasons, where they wanted to kind of reshift focus, and make sure that they're focusing on the product, and not just, oh, we want to hire as many people as possible. And the CEO, I mean, this was actually a good move on his part, but he, posted a blog post explaining exactly, from the horse's mouth, this is why we're doing it. So I'll be very interested to see if Double Dutch comes out with anything like that. There's been a lot of articles that have talked about it. So, I mean, I think, there's ebbs and flows when it comes to technology. I'm sure you know that as well. So I would agree with you. I would not look at this as necessarily a bad thing. They have a great product. And, I'm sure that just means that the product can only go up from here. So I'll be interested to see what kind of updates they push forth.
A couple of the quotes from their founders. Decision to break hard for profitability and move up in the market to build an enterprise platform. That was one of the quotes. This is from TechCrunch. And then another one was, although this is the right thing to do for the business, it makes our decision. It doesn't make our decision any easier. Today is a very tough day for Double Dutch, as our action involved many people who have been a part of Double Dutch's family and contributed tremendously to our success to date. We want to thank all of them for what they've done for this company. We can vouch for all of them, and we're working hard to help them find their next opportunity within our personal alumni and investor networks. So I think it's just a really cool way to say, like, it is just us. It's us refocusing. It's us having to find. And with a little more insight and kind of look into it, it sounds like it's a lot more of kind of the remote world, part of it. They're trying to focus back on the enterprise companies they know right here. So enough about that. We're super fans of Double Dutch. We just wanted to make sure that is part of the breaking news, and that that was kind of brought up into the discussion. I think another kind of cool one that flows next, Laura, is the acquisition of Cvent, which I think is now number 2.
Yes.
It's changed hands, but what are your thoughts around Vista Partners taking on Cvent?
Well, that's interesting, because now in their portfolio, I believe they were purchased by Vista. So Vista Equity Partners, and also in that portfolio is Lanyon. So I think that's going to be really, really huge for the RFP side of the business. So I'll be interested to see how that pans out. Also, if they're going back from being a public company to a private company, there's just not going to be as much information available as there will be for a public company. So I don't know how closely anybody was following them. I'm sure lots of companies, probably their competitors are following them pretty closely. So I will be very interested to see, what new products come out. Are there going to be any other mergers? What do you think will pan out?
I think what's interesting is, if you look at Vista, they've got Active Network, which is kind of more of the out Spartan races type environment, the outdoorsy stuff. They've got Lanyon. They now have Cvent, and then they just recently acquired Marketo. So if you look at that, pretty well-rounded in the sense of kind of every aspect of where, and it's interesting because when people look at the event space, we pitched for investment. I know Don has as well, and raised some solid money, and the pushback is, what's the event world? Nobody's investing in it. Like, what is that? I don't know. Like, where people pay for events, like, that's a market. You can get a job in an event, and it's like, are you joking? This is out of control. And so I think Vista caught on early, and they're seeing this vision that everything is becoming an experience. And sometimes we call it an event, sometimes we call it a gathering, whatever it is, but it's an experience of people being together. And so they're trying to take and just make it as well-rounded as they can with Cvent, which is kind of just the original old school guys that did everything from registration to websites, right? I still go on events and see Cvent at the bottom of the website, right, where they build a little splash page, a landing page, and then all the way through with even Crowd Compass, where they have the mobile experience. And so it'll be really interesting to see with this Marketo acquisition of how it's going to transition from the event experience into the CRM, into the continual lead nurturing marketing side, which you're extremely familiar with, Laura, and just taking that ROI to a whole nother level. So I'm pretty interested in the next, 5 to 7 years to see how they're going to just kind of we'll start to just see this kind of conglomerate of events in the products. I don't know, maybe they'll say exactly the same, but have these nice, APIs between them and really be able to use them. So I don't know. I'm super excited for that.
Cool. And one thing, I guess, since we're on the subject of technology here, acquisitions and all that. So one thing that I came across, let me pull up the article here. So big event that happened is the RNC, Republican National Convention, and there's been a lot. I mean, that is a huge event. DNC is coming up as well. So a couple of the big concerns around this event. Number one is Wi-Fi at the event. It's posing a lot of security risks. And then also just security in general, just the physical security of the people in attendance. Well, maybe not riots is kind of a strong word, but, there are fights that broke out, dissident voices in the audience, and a whole lot happening. What are your thoughts about the RNC? What could they, I think it's actually, it's still ongoing. And so, what do you think, how can the planners behind RNC, one of the largest events, usually in an election year, what can they do to mitigate some of those risks, especially when it comes to Wi-Fi, if we're trying to encourage engagement, and then also the physical security aspect?
Yeah, I think on the Wi-Fi side, I know that extremely well. We deploy and have gotten really, really deep with Wi-Fi. I can only imagine what it takes, and I know what it takes to deploy for that large of a group. But then the security side of things, and just the logistics to let people, like you said, engage and be able to tweet, right? The biggest thing they want is to tweet out and to share on social media, to have that kind of bandwidth constant so that they have a good experience is impressive, to say the least, along with the live streaming that's going on and the camera, to the world, and there's so much kind of aspects there. But from a security standpoint, they can do pretty well on the Wi-Fi side of things. On the physical side of things, man, I'd love to understand and kind of get an idea, and maybe, Laura, you guys know, but what's your kind of security officer or person or personnel per, like, how many people? Like one guy per 10, per 30, per 100? Like, it could get away from you really quick.
I'm not sure what the CIC standard is, but I'm pretty sure there is a standard for it of how many, I think even it also depends on the status of the people in attendance, right? So, we can't just say there's, standard, there needs to be one security guard for every 15 people. Well, what if those 15 people are the most important people in the world? Maybe we need 3 security people for every one of those 15, or every one of those people. So I think it depends on the situation. But, considering this is a very important election year, I think that security is probably having to be ramped up a little bit more than usual. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out for the DNC, which is coming up very soon here, and see how they handle that situation. So
I think there's some cool ways, going back to the original, and this is me just being a thinker and just imagining, but you could imagine the same wristbands, right, that engage and get you into certain areas and give you, the sign that says, this person for president or whatever, like that being like your access. Like when you need to get something, bing, like water bottle from to open up the door of a water thing, bing, like it's all on this wrist. Yet you're also able to track with beacons where that wrist is, right, where that person is. And so if you're starting to have this area that's starting to get a little loud, a little chaotic, a little interesting, that you could almost track it down to the wristband, right? That, okay, they last checked in here, these 30 people last checked in this specific space. Let's go look for Laura Lopez because we know she's on this list of, like, in this area. I don't know, I'm just thinking of cool stuff that I could see happening in the future. I think today it's just a matter of they do a lot of screening, a lot of checking before you even get in for those kinds of threats. But what can you expect, man? Like you almost said, not riot, but like you know, your civil rights, like your right to have a voice, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, as a planner, you have to plan for people yelling in the audience and saying
Mm-hmm.
obscure, weird, you know, things. And so
Yeah.
I think you just take it as it comes from that
And it
aspect.
looks like we have a couple people in the audience. Have any of you come into contact with security issues at your events? We want to hear about them. Please throw them into the questions box or the chat, and we can talk about them because we would love to hear about what kind of rowdy crowds you all have come into contact with.
I think a quick topic. I know it's kind of old news and has been around now for a little bit, but I think you just have to adjust, right? You have to be able to change quick and see the environment and find the best gap to shoot. And one of those is this controversy and this problem that just in the last maybe 2 years with ISIS, right? ISIS used to be the International Society of, you know, Special Events. Like that's what it was until this group came out and started, you know, doing horrific things, and it became this, like, you heard the name and you're like, don't say that. And people are like, what? In the event world, like, that's a great, amazing group of people. And they had to adjust and change. And I thought it was really impressive the way that they just said, look, let's just make the best of the situation. And not only change the name so that we're not associated with that, but let's also kind of change the focus of let's get broader, let's get bigger than what we were. And so just to kind of highlight on that, the ISIS changing names, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm pulling up, this is from specialevents.com. This is an article about their rebranding, and this is a great quote. The change from society to association, for those of you who were maybe not familiar, ISIS stands for and it's ISES, not ISIS. So it said the change from society to association is equally important. It's a crux of what ILEA is about. We're more than a society. We're a close-knit association of like-minded people working together through trust and commitment to purpose. There's a massive opportunity for us as an association in the beginning of a very exciting time in our history. So I think they bring up a great point. They're kind of leveling up in their own organization. And I think it also includes more than just live events. It also includes just, you know, other event professionals. So it used to be special events, but now it's just, you know, all events, which can also include meetings. So I think that opening it up to an association is going to be huge for them and probably expand their membership indefinitely if it hasn't already. So I think there's a lot more to the rebranding than just sort of the name change due to unfortunate events. So where do you see the name change really impacting their association?
I think it's just going broader, like you said, and being bigger than what they were. And, you know, if played right, a rebrand or a rename can go so much further, right? I don't know if you know @Task, which is now Workday. They changed their name like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, which you're like, what? They're established. They've got tons of employees. They're a real brand. And they're going to change their name out of no circumstance like this. They just decided, let's change our name. Because @Task is very task, like you're thinking of a task. Workday, you're like, Workday, okay, it could be anything in my day. Like everybody has a workday. And so I think if you do it right, and looks like they have, that they're really making it a better opportunity, you know, making orange juice out of oranges or whatever the saying is. I think on that topic, they've got a really good show. Now it's what, ILEA Live?
ILEA Live, yep.
It used to be ISIS Live, but that, you know, we hear great things. I don't know, have you ever been before?
I have not been, but I know one of the guys who is I think his title for the event is the event engineer. He's awesome. He's from a company called Engagement Unlimited, so shout out to Roger Haskett. He's their co-founder, and his whole thing, his sort of what he stands for is that is bringing neuroscience into event engagement. Yep. Because it's been proven that you know, if you have activities you know, woven into the event, people are going to remember your event. It's going to be that much more memorable. and that much more useful and increase our event ROI. So he's, their main guy, event engineer, probably will be emceeing a few events, I'm sure. I did a webinar with him. He is extremely smart. So I think if he is their main guy for ILEA Live, it's going to be a good event. It's going to be very memorable. So have you ever attended?
I haven't, but we've had a ton of heard amazing things from it. We looked at presenting and kind of being a part of it, and obviously timing wasn't great for us, but it's a really cool show for sure. What other questions do you have, Laura? What other any other news or insights?
Let me see here. Let's go back to the drawing board. All right. So, here's a good one. This is a list also from specialevents.com about the top DMCs that were named. So this is really, really, really exciting. So the top 25 DMCs. Topping the list here, it's actually not really numbered. Yeah, it's not really numbered. It's just 25 in no particular order. Let me go here. Let me see. Top of the list. Access Destination Services, which is also in San Diego. And I guess for anybody who's listening, who's logged on, Sean, could you maybe give a little rundown about what is a DMC? What do they do? Why should a planner work with a DMC?
So we did a show last week on destination management companies. I literally had never worked with them. I learned. I sat on this show and like Laura just schooling us and working with us. A big thing with DMCs is that they live in that place. They have genuine interest, right, in where and what and how they can help. And a lot of times they don't get any kind of reward other than the tax money that would otherwise be spent there. And so their agenda is not, oh, you got to use SocialTables. That's it. Like they're going to be like, there's this option and this option. There's really only one SocialTables, but like an example is that they're not like dialed and focused on you're going to use this brand and this brand. They're going to give you the best shot in their area. So they're going to say this venue's really good at this, Wi-Fi and catering. This venue's amazing for ambiance environment. It's got a waterfall, but they're really not that good at conference spaces. They don't have a lot of good little breakout rooms. Like they're going to be extremely transparent with you because either way you're in their town, you're in their place. They're just excited to help and provide value. So I think DMCs, the little that I knew before, now I'm an extreme fan because there's no ties to it. They're not some management group that's has some partnership on the back end with whoever, just funneling it like, well, you should use this, and it's like, okay. Instead of like, here's the whole option, here's the whole board. We're here to help you and support you in any way you can. So that's what I learned recently, and I'm a super fan now.
There was a lady who I think was she on from the Phoenix DMC, Phoenix or Scottsdale?
Scottsdale, yep.
Scottsdale, okay. And it was just really, really cool to see how like deeply proud she was to be from Arizona, and how she was just saying, if you need to host an event in Arizona, I know all the top places to go. And the other thing too that you're leveraging and working with a DMC, I think, is the fact that you're leveraging those connections that you don't really have. It's kind of like,
exactly it.
It's almost like if you're going to a new city, maybe you're on vacation. Sure, you can Google around top, restaurants to go to or top things to do in the city, but you never really know until you get there, and some things could be a tourist trap and things that you would never want to do regardless. So it's kind of like having a set of eyes and ears in that city that you're trying to plan your event. And so I don't know why you wouldn't want to work with a DMC.
Yeah, it's the difference between staying at a hotel and staying at an Airbnb. It's like you stay at a hotel, the front desk will help. Yeah, here's this, and they kind of lead you to these like the two closest restaurants to the place. Like, yeah, these are walking distance. Here you go. You stay at your Airbnbs. I stayed at one in Oakland at Dreamforest. Sold out. I'm way out in Oakland doing my thing. Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, what do you think, man? Like, where should I go? And he's like, look, just don't walk past 32nd Street. Like, that was not like, and I'm like, you can't Google that in Oakland. And he's like, just don't walk past 32nd Street. Anything north of that's awesome. Like, those kind of insights, that's their equivalent. I mean, these people live, like this Scottsdale girl was just like I Heart Arizona, you know, like she knew everybody and just like knew all the places to go and you know, what you wanted. And so they're fans. They're super fans. They're your best friend. They got your back. They'll help you. They can get the resources, you know, in a second's notice. So.
And actually, the gal who was on our last show, she is from a CVB, to clarify, not a DMC. So Convention Visitors Bureau, CVB, not DMC.
I don't know.
So just to provide some clarification for the official
I appreciate that.
the official definition here, a DMC is a professional services company possessing extensive local knowledge, expertise, and resources, specializing in the design and implementation of events, activities, tours, transportation, and program logistics. So, so there's a little bit of clarification there on DMC.
But I love the fact check.
But, yes. So they're almost like event planners for an entire city. So, and typically they have a lot of corporate clients. So a little bit there on DMCs. Check out their top list. It's on specialevents.com. All
So
right.
back on the Ilya.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
I saw some chats that came in and I just wasn't paying attention. Catch them. So joining late, but I'm the president-elect for Ilya Vancouver. Awesome to have you on, Karen.
All right, Karen.
We should have turned your microphone on and still can.
Yeah, we can still do that. Karen, if you're in the house, we can turn your mic on. Let's go ahead and do that. All right, Karen, you're with us. If you have a microphone.
Karen, are you on?
I just unmuted her. All right, we can come back to her.
but we're super excited about our new name and broader reach. Thanks for recognizing us. We're expanding to bigger event industries. Alex also gave some insight that it's going to rely heavier on the local chapters. They don't provide those chapters with the right resources. It's going to go unnoticed in broader community. There are a lot of event professionals who aren't plugged into the industry in the way that they can. They don't know about what Ilya is. So something to look up, ILEA. If you're an event planner or you're in the event industry, you need to learn about it. Karen's going to open up this. We'll catch you next time, Karen.
Yeah, and then I'll go ahead and unmute Mr. Alex Plaxon if you're on. Hey, Alex. Interesting thoughts here on events here. So there are a lot of event professionals that you think who aren't necessarily plugged into the industry the way that we are, and may not know what ILEA is. Do you have any thoughts on how the name change is really going to affect those folks who are not plugged in, and how do you think those local chapters can pull in those people who are maybe not as dialed in to ILEA and their local chapters?
Hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. So, I kind of come from a unique perspective because I went to grad school to study event media management. They kind of told us about all the associations we should consider joining, things like that. But a lot of people in the industry do not come from that kind of background. They don't have that opportunity to be taught in a classroom and say, hey, here's a list of all the associations you should consider joining. I think the three of us, we come from a services side. We are suppliers. So it's our job to go out and seek these associations so we can find our clients. But for event professionals, it's not their job to find associations to necessarily join. Typically, they hear about an association or they're looking for more education, things like that. So for ILEA to expand their reach, one thing that we're doing, I'm on the board locally in DC for MPI chapter. We're looking to partner with our ILEA chapter here in DC for events so that we can reach their members and they can reach our members who may not know that each other exists. I know that for us, we're going through a rebrand currently as well. Locally, we're known as PMPI, the Potomac chapter of Meeting Professionals International. That's no more. We're now MPI Potomac chapter. We are not allowed to say PMPI because people don't know what PMPI is outside of the DC area. So we're working to rebrand this year as well and kind of get that MPI first, and then the Potomac chapter second. So it does rely heavily on the marketing within the chapters.
All right. Good thoughts there. Karen, I know that she does not have a microphone, unfortunately. But Karen, if you have any thoughts, feel free to throw them into the questions box about your thoughts on how to get some of those folks a little bit more dialed into those local chapters. Right. Yes, here we go. She says, ILEA Vancouver is also looking to partner with MPI Vancouver. Love the concept of collaboration within the event industry for DC as well. Yes. Yeah, it's interesting about associations and there being a bit of, some people look at it as competition. I like to think, I like the fact that some of these chapters are collaborating. We hosted an event in New York, and we actually had, let's see, I think it was MPI, and what was the other? I think it was the local then ISIS chapter in Greater New York City to be co-sponsors for this event. But surprisingly, it worked out really well. And really what it did was that it brought together people who are both in the events industry in one way, shape, or another, and brought them together to meet. And, I think that's, so I don't look at it as, this chapter versus this chapter, this association versus this association. I think it's a good way to collaborate. So I don't know if Alex or Karen, you have any thoughts on that, further thoughts on collaboration, but we'd love to hear them.
Yeah.
Alex,
So,
we're still unmuted. Yeah.
yeah. If you're interested in seeing one group or city that does this really well, look up Chicago's Industry Exchange. It was started by their MPI chapter, but basically they invited all the other industry associations to collaborate on this one big event that they throw every year. And we're looking now to bring that to DC in some form or another, whether that's an industry week or something like that, where we all have our own individual events, but we all collaborate together. But if you're interested in kind of seeing what's been done and what works really well, look up Chicago's Industry Exchange.
All right. Awesome. Any other questions from, let's see, here we go, Karen. It's something that they've been struggling with. There is a bit of a divide between meetings and events. I would agree, although ILEA is made up of a lot of corporate planners in addition to the gala/charity planners too. There really is a sense of division within the industry. So, well, hopefully, very much like Alex is working with MPI, the Potomac chapter here in DC, hopefully there's a way that we can kind of bridge that gap between meetings and events. It's interesting that there's that divide in there because, I mean, whenever I mention meetings and events, I say it just like that, meetings and events. I think of them as just kind of like cousins, cousin industries. So, yeah. Sean, what are your thoughts on meetings and events?
Really good cousin. Yeah, really good. Yeah, really like brother, like sister. Like your cousin. It's so close. It's like your actual brother. I think that's what it is. Meeting and events. No, I'm a fan of all of them, and I think more than anything, it's just experience for me. Meeting, event, whatever, however you look at it, that it's about collaboration and learning and interaction, no matter what it is. Internal event, corporate, huge, massive Comic-Con, they all have an opportunity to be memorable and be something that that you talk about for months and years to come.
Yeah.
I think that brings us to the end. One last thing I wanted to kind of bring up and talk about was just some resources, and I'd love to chat, Alex and Karen and everyone else who chat in. Where do you go for your resources, right? You got your chapters, ILEA and MPIs. Where else? BizBash, SocialTables puts out some amazing content. Bizzabo, there's a bunch of stuff. I'd love to kind of hear what everybody uses to get their catching news. And then while we're doing that, I will mention one article that was cool. Recently, Bizzabo put out a 60 most influential event professionals to follow back by science. Julia Solaris, no surprise, at the top of the list, does an amazing job with Event Manager blog. Some other great names, including Laura and Will. I rounded at the very end. I snuck in. They tweeted enough about me. They're like, Sean's cool. I don't know, Sean. And I was like, I made the list. So really good list, though. Really good information and insights from these people. And so I would definitely check out that list as you're looking for kind of resources to follow.
Yeah, and I would agree. I'll have to second that. Huge list of folks. A lot of people that we're huge fans of. Lisa Gardner, she's amazing. Have to give her a shout out on there. Also, the wonderful.
We've had a lot on the show. I said we've had a lot of them on the show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and of course Dahlia. Have to give a shout out to her. Brent Kruger, I know he's been on the show a handful of times. So lots and lots. Yeah, Chris Kelly from Convene, good friend of SocialTables there. Liz King, yep. Lots of great people. Don Berger, got to give him a shout out.
Come on, Don.
Don. So let's see here. Any resources here? Ooh, got a couple. Let me see here. Oh, okay. Oh, she's always looking for more. So Karen's always looking for more resources. So what we'll do in this episode is that we'll share some of those articles that we discussed in today's Event Icons episode. So you all can have a look at those, and we'll also share some of our favorite blogs that we use to follow breaking news. And yeah, with that, that's our show. Sean, any closing comments?
Come back next week. We've got some really. Laura's got one in the pipeline that will blow your mind. So make sure she's so excited.
It's going to be so good.
They've been in the news recently a lot, so check it out. Really good one. We're not going to leak it, though. We can't leak it yet.
No, we can't leak it.
You gotta be on the edge of this one. It's
really bad at keeping secrets, but I got to tell you, it's going to be a great show. And I will tell you two folks who will be on the show. Tahira Repass, who is over at Inspirato, and then also the one and only Tahira Endine, who is both, again, huge fans of theirs, friends of SocialTables, I'm sure friends of yours, so they're going to be on a future show, but that third guest we're really excited to announce, but that will be all together in one show, so stay tuned for that. And then, so be sure to sign up for, like I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast, be sure to sign up for the GoToWebinar invite, so you're notified when we go live, and then also you'll get a copy of the recording at the end. But we also post those on Endless Entertainment's blog post. So please stay tuned, sign up, and also tweet us. Let us know who you want to see on the show. We will do everything in our power to get those people on the show. We've gotten some pretty big names, so I think that with our powers combined, we can get them on the show. So, and then be sure to tell your friends. The show is nothing without the digital engagement from you all, the audience. So please be sure to share, forward over the invite. And I think that's about it.
Go catch them all is my last phrase.
Very timely, very timely. So,
I love it. Okay.
All right. Well, I think that's our show. We'll see you next week, everybody.